Good day, everyone. I'm that dude over there, and in case you didn't watch my previous Fire Emblem video, I wanted to see if I could beat Fire Emblem Path of Radiance with only 5 units. Now, to those who did, you know I said Radiant Dawn and not Path of Radiance. I promise you that I will get to Radiant Dawn, but I want to do this one first for some benefits later. I'll have to play one other Fire Emblem game after this before we can get to Radiant Dawn, but we'll get there when we get there. For now, let me just remind everyone of the rules. I'm allowed to use 5 units max, and these units have to be decided before the run starts. And any other unit I obtain throughout the run has to be killed off. They cannot attack, but they can wait. I'll bend the rules as we progress, but only if there are situations that call for it. Stay tuned for the Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn video. Alright, with all that said, let's look and see if I was able to do this. Unlike the Blazing Sword video, I'll let you know my units now so they don't seem like a Deus Ex Machina later. So first we have the main character of our run, Ike. Ike is an infantry sword-locked unit, like most other lords, but plays a lot like Ephraim from Sacred Stones. He has great offensive capabilities, but gets destroyed by most mage units. Our next unit, in order, is Oscar. Oscar is here to cover the remaining elements of the weapon triangle that we can't cover with Ike. He starts with a lance, but when he promotes he can get up to an axe, sword, or bow. And of course, gotta go with an axe. From there, we have Soren. Soren is easily one of the top mages for Path of Radiance. Soren is really fast, has the adept skill so he can attack up to 4 times at any turn max, and will easily cap his magic stat with his 60% magic growth. From there, we add Mist. To be honest, I don't know why she's here. She promotes into a cavalier that uses swords and staves, but has a pretty poor strength growth. Her weapons of choice don't come till late game, and I'm pretty sure there are only like 2 weapons for her to use. And even among magic units, she's not particularly great because she can't make use of her magic stat outside of healing. And finally, South. He's a thief that won't cost us gold and comes with the Blossom skill. Blossom is like the modern aptitude in later Fire Emblem games that boosts the growth rates of units. However, unlike the other thief that appears, South can't promote. So, why did I choose him? Well, I'll let you know later. First, we need to dive into the game with our 5 units. Prologue. Thank God I could spare you from this voice acting. It's annoying at best and grating at worst. Anyway, this is your classic tutorial chapter. Ike goes up against Boyd and Grail of the Grail Mercenaries. Ike wins because he can and joins the mercenaries. Chapter 1. Now with Oscar, we need to save a town from bandits. Fun fact, this map is bugged, as Ike spawns in with an inventory full of iron swords. Cool, huh? Hey, what are you staring at? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna address these bans real quick. So, these bans are class bans, or at least that's what I'm gonna call them. Basically, they provide a small boost to a unit's growth, but can only be unlocked after completing the game for the first time. So, yeah. I played the game before, this isn't anything new. But I feel like for this experience, I don't want to use them, since it kind of feels like cheating. So after obtaining a steel sword and a seraph robe from Oscar, I have our cavalier friend smite the boss. Chapter 2. So the brigands from before want revenge on our dynamic duo and threaten to kill their siblings if they don't comply. Now, obviously, we have to go because one of these people are one of my 5 units and they're my healer. But as we clear our way to Mist and Rolf, a bandit threatens to kill Mist and make us watch. So we drop our weapons, and the bandit suffers from a minor case of death as Shannon and Gatry save our precious baby and Mist. Chapter 3. Our entire squad gets shifted around, and for this chapter, we we have to pray I can clear a map with no backup. Thankfully we do, and save a Pegasus Knight from an early death. We also obtain an elixir from a shady person with blue hair and pronouns. As we pack up and leave, Shinon expresses his desire for more, and so does Gatry. I wonder if that's going to lead to anything. Chapter 4. War is here, and Soren gives the most based opinion of siding with the clear bad guys. See, Soren, I knew there was a reason I liked you. In any case, this is our first chapter with Soren, and we have to protect this man at all costs. Soren is a bit squishy, and if he gets attacked with a spear, he ain't getting back up. Thankfully, Soren only slightly scares us by tackling the boss. Chapter 5. After saving some girl who might survive this tragedy, we get ambushed by the guys Soren said to side with. Okay, Soren, now that the enemy are here, try convincing them to let us join them. No? Okay. In any case, we need to defend ourselves against the onslaught of soldiers. We're able to pull off a good fight, but we fail to get the Ashura icon the boss holds. While we get ready to move on to Chapter 6, we see the Fire Emblem for Path of Radiance. You see that Fire Emblem is actually evil in this world, as it contains the spirit of a dark demon. It is known as Leiron's Medallion, and the only one who can wield it safely is not Grail, not Ike, not even Alencia, but Miss. Chapter 6. So we make our way across Tellius, guiding this Alencia to Gallia for protection from the Lagoos. Who are the Lagoos, you may ask? Well, they're a subspecies of human that have a unique trait to morph their bodies into another species of the animal kingdom, or large reptiles with wings that project a specialized breath that can take down its aggressors. So, they're furries? No, they're not furries. They have more in common with humans than their animal counterparts. I stand my point. Chapter 7. Okay, so I have a bit of a confession. Some of my footage got corrupted around here, and I looked through all of the footage, and this is literally the only chapter that got lost. It's whatever, but now I have to actually touch the story. Basically, we enter a fort where this girl named Mia joins the squad. We get a new tome for Soren, who has used all of the original Wind Tome from his debut chapter, and after completing the chapter, Ike finds Grail, who comes to the weapon triangle, and gets impaled on the Black Knight's long white sword. No, I will not elaborate, I don't have the footage. Shinon and Gatry leave. They said something about money and girls, and also, they hate Ike. Cool. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is a defense map where we have to defend against Dane, who have us completely surrounded. Remember how I said units can wait without doing anything, and that's fine so long as they can't attack? Well, I'm gonna need to abuse this in order to clear the chapter. Oscar and Soren have to work together to defend our right entrance, while Ike tries to contact Leanna to steal her Thunder Tomes on the left. Titania needs to guard the front entrance so we don't lose. But halfway in, Titania takes way too much damage. This is a problem, since if she dies, we all die. So naturally, I abandon the plan to steal Leanna's Thunder Tomes and force Titania to wait on Ike's spot while Ike takes care of Titania's cavalry problem. And while on the surface this sounds like a bad idea, it's actually fine because of how the enemy decided to flood Ike's path. There's no person there that can hit Titania without moving away. There is an archer that could snipe Titania, but this so-called archer is standing directly in front of Ike. Because of the weird AI, or maybe because his path was blocked, The archer won't move as the goal for our lose condition is nearby. Thank Ashura, we clear this chapter and get saved by our Lagu allies, Leith and Mordecai. They try to punish Soren for his racism, but Soren gets saved by Ike and the entire FE community who believes these two are gay for each other. Guys, it was a joke. It was a joke! Chapter 9. Anyway, Chapter 9 is another Seas map where we get missed. I also find a surprising mechanic that made me think for the run. See, in Path of Radiance, besides the green units that do whatever they want, there will occasionally be yellow units that accompany your army. The best way I can describe these units are, they listen to you, but they don't trust you. Basically, Ike can direct them to do an action. However, how they perform the action is up to the AI. Alright? And I wasn't sure if them attacking counted as using them, you know? So, I had to think about this. What do I do with these guys? So, I more or less left it to this. I didn't think too much about it for this chapter, so if they attack someone, go hog wild, alright? But every chapter after this, I'm gonna do my best to make sure none of these guys attack an enemy unit. Just to make things 100% fair and 100% fine. Oh, and these guys can technically escape, which, you know what, that's fine. It's not doing anything that impacts our fighting. It's not doing anything that impacts placement or whatever, so I'll let them do that, alright? Oh, and before ending the chapter, we make sure to kill off Rolf and Marcia, alright? Let's go. Chapter 10. After receiving a beautiful payday from Gallia, the Lagoose country, I learned a new difficulty for this run. It's not so much about playing the game, but more about killing off my allies. You see, Lagoose units are very interesting units. When their, let's call it rage meter, fills up to full, they become the monsters that the Beorc fear them as. However, that's kind of a bad thing if I want to kill them off. I had to reset my first attempt at this map because Leith transformed while I was attempting to get her killed. Naturally, she ended up dealing damage to the soldiers who were attacking her. So with this new piece of news on attempt 2, I decided that the only units I would spare for my run were the Lagoos, as I didn't want to go through the hassle of trying to get them killed. After that, we used our chest and door keys to pick up some great loot and some great meat shield soldiers to aid us in our oncoming fights. Oh, also we recruit Volk, who is relevant to the story, but you know. Chapter 11. This map, we have to evacuate to a boat, but still claim the rewards from the villages before getting there. This chapter, a mercenary named Zahark, fighting for the Lagoos, arrives with a tasty killing edge, which heightens our critical hit chance. However, because I can't use Leith or Mordecai, Zahark meets his furry waifu in the afterlife. As the chapter progresses, the Black Knight arrives to smite our group, and Ike thinks it's a good idea to get his revenge on him. Yeah, buddy, we'll get right on that. It's not like this guy's max level, has 4 cap stats, a magical sword that raises his defense beyond the limit, 1-2 range, renewal, Luna, and special armor that prevents normal weapons from damaging him. Yeah, screw that. It's time for a high seas adventure. Chapter 12. Oh, you thought I was kidding. No. Our next couple chapters are on a boat, and for this chapter, we get Soth who stays, and Jill who gets her eyes pecked out by some crows. And that's not me exaggerating death or anything, the enemies here are crow lagoos. I promise, it's not furries. It's actually because of these crows that we can't deploy Soth without getting him killed. Chapter 13. So, the biggest annoyance with this chapter is trying to grab all the loot from the ships. Actually, I should clarify, all the good loot. See, on the middle boat, there's some pretty effective weapons for the oncoming chapters, like Hellfire or a longsword for cavalry foes. But on the far end of the map, ooh boy, there's stat boosters along with an occult scroll. I haven't brought this up yet, but in Path of Radiance, and most other FE games later on, there are skills that can be learned by units. In this game, skills are taught by scrolls, if a unit doesn't already have them. On our team, Mist, Soren, and Soth come in with pre-built skills, and can add on more as we go. Occult scrolls, however, teach skills to units that are class lock skills. I wanted to get at least one of these, so I could teach Ike Aether for an event later on. Oh, and, Aether is a fun attack where Ike attacks twice, healing with his first hit and dealing extra damage with his second. This is the first chapter where I have to reset, though, because of a character death. Where Miss dies from a boss moving in to kill her. Insert Persona 5 reference here. We're able to secure most of the goods, but miss out on a Laguz axe that gets stolen. Chapter 14. Now, we finally do something that actually makes sense in this game. We are a mercenary company. In this chapter, we finally get to do our job. And get paid to do our job. See, right now, we're getting paid kind of as some kind of off-brand militia for Valencia, but we don't know if we're actually going to get paid for that. So instead, the apostle for Bagnon is going to be our employer, and pardon me for my butchering. So what's our job? We get to murder businessmen involved in Laguz trafficking. Heck yeah, we really use this time to properly train up Soth, who's been a bit left behind since he starts at level 1. Bro, seriously, why did you pick that little gremlin? You'll see later. You'll see. So we have Maklov pay his debt with blood, while we have Soren rain lightning on our foes. Chapter 15. Our next job is to eliminate the criminal organization that keeps robbing nobles of their things. You know what else are things according to these nobles? The Laguz. Yeah, if it wasn't clear yet, the Laguz are an analogy for racism. Some people like Ike are too blockheaded and reasonable to not care about it. And then there are people like Oliver who are just America between 1770 and 1860. Here, we are careful as we bring Leith into battle to recruit a character. Hey, wait a minute. If you have Leith here to recruit the new guy, wouldn't you be using Leith? Ah, my lovely friend. Shut up. See, this recruitment is one of the few I can get by having a character wait. In this desert chapter, if Leith stands on a specific tile, a dusty old hermit named Stefan will force himself on the Grill mercenaries team with his new Lagu friend. Anyway, we beat the chapter, learn that these criminals are freeing Laguz, and report to our employer asking if we're actually the baddies. Chapter 16. No! In fact, we are not the baddies. Because our employer, the Apostle, our 10-year-old employer, who rules all over the country, came up with a complex plan to expose the inner corruption of our land and clean it up at once. How the hell she do that? Chubb. Our next job for this plan is to expose Oliver, the guy I mentioned last chapter, for being a slave owner. And lucky us, Mist actually does something useful and finds a white Bertlegoose in the man's home. We train our mercenaries and obtain a ton of useful items from chests littered in the castle. We also murder a man with a soft spot for kids. Don't get any ideas. Chapter 17. The beauty that is Oliver manages to get away, and it's the Grail mercenaries' job to find their way. To get to Oliver, that is. Nothing of note happens here except we lose some supplies when Braum takes an L against the Myrmidon with a killing edge. Chapter 17. Okay, this is an Arrive chapter with a bunch of enemy units. The biggest problem I have with this chapter is my units drop from 5 to 4. Not because I save over someone's death or something, no, but because Soth runs out of weapons. Thieves in FE9 don't use swords like they do in previous and future Fire Emblem games. Thieves in FE9 and their sequel game Radiant Dawn use combat knives as weapons. However, I didn't stock my knives well enough throughout the run and burned through both sets of knives I got from Soth and Volk. Chapter 17. Chapter 17 is a defend chapter where Ike, who's been steadily falling off, gets mega nerfed because he has to carry a lady who fainted on him.
Why can't you save your own damn self?
This makes an already tough chapter a nightmare, since we lose Ike as a valuable unit. Mist is absolutely garbage, with her abysmal attack stat, and Soth is locked out of fighting. Soren and Oscar have to solo this map, while keeping our team safe for 10 turns. It feels like forever, but thankfully we make it. Surely we get a break now, right? Chapter 17. Oh, thank God we made it to Chapter 17. Now all we need to do is kill Oliver and we'll be on our way. I'm really glad that we get bailed out by Tabarn, who decides to also kill Oliver. Despite Tabarn doing all the work, we get Oscar to kill an enemy for his Adept Scroll, before Tabarn can kill Oliver. With all that shenanigans out of the way, Ike finally promotes from low-class citizen to upper-class citizen. Ike obtains benefits as leading an army, having the best skill Aether, and enjoying tea and crumpets with the Empress on Sundays. We outfit Soth up with some new daggers he can equip from the shop, and give Oscar the Adept Scroll so that way we can have a magical Soren and a physical Soren. Chapter 18. After proving that the Grail mercenaries are in fact not racist, Raisin decides now would be a good time to join the team. However, the last thing I need is another Lagoose sitting on the bench. So we promptly tell him to fly home to Daddy, and this chapter, we feed a lot of kills to Ike, for no other reason than the fact that he has not done anything since Chapter 10. And in order to make sure that our company keeps our reputation as not racist, we kill Shannon in cold blood. Chapter 19. Alright, this chapter puts our critical thinking skills to the test. We fight not only Dane this chapter, but the King of Kilvis, Nesala. This guy naturally destroys our 5 guys with his high strength and his ability to use magic at tomb range. Oh, and he's a Lagoose, so his stats rise upon transforming. So, naturally, I have to reset when my first attempt to to fight Nisala, destroys Titania, who refuses to die. And not Soth, but Mist. What the? I find it funny too, because Mist procs Soul, but because of her abysmal strength, she doesn't deal damage for it to work. It's really funny. I mean, God, Mist, you are such a horrible asset to the team. If it weren't for you having access to Kanto, you'd be outclassed by everyone here. And that's a double whammy since Soth can't even promote. Yet. Anyways, is there a way to beat this chapter without fighting Nisala? Well, yes, there is. However, that ticket sailed when I sent Racing home with Tabarn. So is that it? Is that how the run ends? Well, no, stupid. The marker in the video would tell you that. So, remember how I said Lagoos had rage meters or some kind of form like that? Well, when their meters run out, after they've transformed, they'll return back to their Beorc-looking forms. While his stats are still high, they're much more manageable when he's not counterattacking. With this, Oscar was able to pull off the most insane play of defeating Nisala with a 37% chance to hit. Bro, it was just insane. No words. After this nightmare, the rest of the chapter turns into how much EXP can I pour into Ike and Mist before killing the boss. After the chapter, Ike carries 50,000 gold back to the camp, and Volk offers to promote himself from level 7 after expo dumping the main antagonist of the game. We don't do it because Volk isn't a main character, but since Soth can't promote, I'll show you what a thief promotion looks like for what he should have became. Chapter 20. This is an arrive within the turn limit chapter where we face off against Jill's dad. You know, Jill. The character we sacked upon force recruiting herself to the team. The character who never learned to overcome her prejudice and died to the one thing she swore to destroy. It's Jill! Anyway, Ike delivers this message to Jill's dad as he lays dying in a bloody puddle. Oh, and if you think I was going to complain about the turn limit, then you need to realize that by this point, the only people dragging us down was Mist. Oscar and Ike can take on anything that comes their way, while Soren kills anything they can. Their forces fail to slow us down, and by the end, Ike, helps people who suffered because of Jill's dad. Ugh. Chapter 21. Chapter 21. This is another chapter where I had to reset because we lost Mist and Oscar to bishops who put us to sleep. This chapter is a joke with our busted gang, plus Mist, and kill everything with a pulse minus Tyranio, who becomes the new Titania, and Ina because of plot. Oh well. We throw Nasir in prison and everything is right in the world. Chapter 22. Before hopping onto the next map, I forge Ike the Gay Blade. Listen, I know I joke about it, but reading Soren and Ike's supports give a subtle underlying subtext about Soren having feelings about Ike. But that being said, I don't care if the two are gay or not, and until we get a Soren-Ike duo unit in Fire Emblem Heroes that solidifies their relationship, I don't see any reason to not jab at each other until they do. Whatever. Anyway, this chapter we visit a church who doesn't like the Soren x Ike fanfiction. But rather than slaughter them like the rest, we talk them into opening their minds by threatening to leave them to die if they don't support these two. Oh, and Racing rejoins the cast as an NPC. Chapter 23. Alright, this chapter is a straight stinker. We have to go cross a bridge littered with holes while being attacked by Ballista and feral lagoos. Feral lagoos, unlike their normal counterparts, just ignore the rules of being lagoos and decide to stay mad. We kill Har, who seems reluctant to kill us for some reason, and move on to Petrine, who gives us a magic lance upon dying. I mean, Jesus, miss, the one time we get a weapon that runs on the magic stat and it's a lance, not a sword. I know it seems I'm harping on this, but you'll see why I do it soon enough. Chapter 24. Jeffrey decides to start a party for Alincia's return, but confuses our 5-man band for the Dane cavalry. Not a good look for Jeffrey. Lucia and Bastion join this chapter, only to end up running around like idiots. The Black Knight shows up again, and Ike decides that now is the best time to kill this guy. Listen, buddy, I know you want revenge. We all do in some case. But you need to realize that meeting Grail shouldn't be the end result. Let's take some chapters to level you up and make sure we don't do any more rash decisions, okay, bud? Nice talk. Chapter 25. Alright, the bench is looking pretty full. It's time to send some units to meet their founder of the company. So, we guide Stefan to Bite Satan and Hiffle. We allow Tormod to free the Lagoos that inhabit the afterlife. Khalil invites herself to join the great mages of Ashura. Volk just, I guess, lays on the ground, not moving. And Tanith fails the apostle and must atone for her sins. Titania suffers great injuries, but cannot fall here and retreats. And after eating rocks from the Dane army, we tell the commander to taste the sun as we bury a blade into his back. Chapter 26. To complement the Soren X Ike weapon we made in Chapter 22, we deliver Soren a custom tome to use against the very foes he shuns in battle. Alincia watches as we murder her uncle before her eyes, and we obtain the rune sword. Ugh, finally a magical weapon for Mist. I can't wait for her to finally... Her rank is too low. Gosh darn it, Mist! The one time we get a magical weapon for you, and you can't even use it. What the heck? You're one weapon level short. Are you... How can you call yourself a team player when Soren does your job just as efficiently with none of the drawback? Chapter 27. Oh, you were waiting for this chapter. The chapter where I finally explain why Mist is part of our team. Well, let me explain. Chapter 27 is a 2-part chapter where we finally fight the Black Knight. The first part is a simple arrive map where we kill and rob the commander on our way. However, note that I said first part. The second part of this chapter has Ike spend 5 turns battling the Black Knight solo style. Except, no, Ike doesn't fight the Black Knight solo. Mist is here to act as his only source of healing. That's right, the only reason I brought this dingus of a unit along was so that I could kill the Black Knight with Ike. I don't care about getting Ina or Nasir after clearing the chapter, but killing the Black Knight is literally canon of Ike's story. In fact, it's so integral for Ike's story that Radiant Dawn doesn't even acknowledge the idea of Ike failing to kill the Black Knight here. So out of pure pride alone, I needed to defeat the Black Knight here and now. To defeat the Black Knight here and now that I don't feel called out in Radiant Dawn. Chapter 28. I force the delete key for Oscar and spend the rest of the chapter clearing out the bench before the final map. To do this, I send Jeffrey and Lucia to die in each other's arms, Largo to reunite with Khalil after sharing the same fate as Jill, Bastion to act like the circus clown that he is and get mauled by a big cat, and Tyranio to make his son's true Fire Emblem protagonist by dying to Dane's enemies. I don't kill Alicia though, because I fear that her dying may cause a game over, and I don't like potentially wasting my time. Oh, and we learn that feral lagoos are just really high and attack people they don't understand. That's why they hang around Dane, because Dane never does anything wrong, right? Oh. Oh no. Endgame. Repatriation. Unlike in Blazing Sword, I feel really confident in my units in defeating Ashnard. Sure, he may be like the Black Knight and not take damage from everyone, but at least he's not on hard mode and I have to give up a recruitment slot for a Lagoo Royal. Ike gives a speech about family, and Soren, Soth, Oscar, and Mist depart for Crimea's capital. Ashnard is a formidable foe to be sure, and I do reset once when Mist gets killed, but beyond that, Ike proves how great of a lord he can be by attacking and killing Ashnard at 2 range. With that, the game's done. We do get some story reveals, like Ashnard's dragon being Ina's sugar daddy, Mist leaving the Devil's Trinket with Raisin and Leanne, and Ike giving up his lord status, but beyond that the game's over. Sure, we have this guy Sephirin giving a cryptic message about the real war only just beginning, but I don't care, because Mist lives to see her 16th birthday. You go, girl. You may be useless, but you are useless. I'll see you guys next time when we unravel the horrid world of Macbell. But until then, from one stranger to the next, stay safe out there.